I was a young child, 4, 5, and 6, having the typical situations where at night I was seeing spirit around me and didn't quite know what to make of it. And it wasn't until she actually transitioned about 10 years later that I understood what was happening in my head because she actually came to me 2 nights later. I thought I was going crazy, and long story short, I realized that there was something else going on inside of myself. Whenever I was experiencing some form of trauma, I was able to go within, and innately I saw myself being surrounded by this crystal white light. And so for me, the white light for me has always been my powerhouse. It's always been my go-to. And as I became older and more mature as well, I realized that light was the light of spirit.
Hey, thanks for joining us for Focusing In, formerly the Hemi-Sync podcast. I'm your host, Garrett Stevens, and this is episode 45. Our guest today is psychic medium Bill Phillips. He is the author of Expect the Unexpected, Signs from the Other Side, and most recently, Soul Searching, Tune into Spirit and Awaken Your Inner Wisdom. His life's mission is to help people deal with the grief of losing loved ones by bringing through validations, evidential information, and beautiful messages from spirit, which heal and bring a sense of peace. He conducts individual and small and large group readings and has appeared on high-profile television programs like Dr. Phil and Access Hollywood. He lives in Salem, Oregon, and you can visit him online at billphillips.com. 1L, 2Ps. Without further delay, here's Bill Phillips. Hey, Bill, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. So, for folks that don't know you, maybe you could start with a little bit about your background, how you grew up, how you found out you were psychic, yeah, and any left turns along the path.
Absolutely. Well, like I always say, to make a long story a little bit shorter, I was a young child, 4, 5, and 6, having the typical situations where at night I was seeing spirit around me and didn't quite know what to make of it. Started with me about literally seeing faces around me at night before I fell asleep. The mouth's moving, didn't know, was very nervous and scared about it. My mom told me I watched too many scary movies. So my belief system believed that command. And so for a while, it actually went dormant. And it wasn't until she actually transitioned about 10 years later that I understood what was happening in my head because she actually came to me 2 nights later. I thought I was going crazy. And long story short, I realized that there was something else going on inside of myself. So once I listened to that and trusted it, the rest was basically history. I was training to be an opera singer at the time, many moons ago. So I was a natural born musician as well. And I actually learned through music training, through the sound and vibration of music, that there was something else happening with inside of myself that helped me attune my energy to a different frequency. And that actually allowed the channeling to become much more sufficient for me, actually. So this was years ago. Um, I was in many closets at that time. I wasn't wanting to actually accept it, but once I did, Spirit basically did the rest for me, and now to this day, it's my life's work, and I'm so grateful to be here.
That's cool. Thanks, Bill. I actually had a similar experience with my mom telling me that things I was seeing weren't real, or it's not possible. The ability is going dormant for a while, only to reemerge later. So that's interesting. Always love hearing about people with similar experiences. Now, your particular wheelhouse really is helping people deal with the grief of losing loved ones, right?
That is the primary purpose, but I
Yeah.
also have people that seek me out from all over the world, from CEOs to leaders as well, that come to me for guidance as well on a psychic level too. So for me, especially at this stage, in my life, I find that I'm beautifully utilizing both of my gifts actually for people, which is lovely.
That is lovely.
Yeah.
So you write and teach a lot about living more authentically by connecting with this powerful source of energy within, which you identify as spirit. You want to expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. So for me, as a child, and I think that anyone who's gifted or has ability will probably be able to also tell you that there's something within our lives that happens that shatters our whole physical world or our identity as a human species, and usually it's through trauma of some sort. So for me, that began as a child, 5 and 6, my mom taking me across the country from my dad. A lot of different, traumas happening for a young child. But one thing that always stayed true to me was whenever I was experiencing some form of trauma, I was able to go within and innately I saw myself being surrounded by this crystal white light. And so for me, the white light for me has always been my powerhouse. It's always been my go-to. And as I became older and more mature as well, I realized that light was the light of spirit. And so once I
Mhm.
really got out of my way about, pop culture or about how this was supposed to be seen, I realized that it's actually much more simplistic than we realize. And once we really understand that simplicity of how spirit works in the background, spirit basically in the essence is, the divine power, the divine being. So it's whatever you really want to call that energy source or that supreme energy. But for me, it's spirit. And along that line of spirit is also our loved ones who are in spirit, our guides around us, angels, the whole hierarchy as well, that we are literally being guided by daily on our physical journey here.
Mhm. And so this world that you're describing, this inner world, it might sound foreign to some folks. What do you think are the main impediments people face in accessing that space?
I feel that the first thing is their indoctrination, So as a child, whatever they were taught growing up, their imaginary friend, 4, 5, 6 again, possibly also fear as well. Someone telling them, "Oh, that's your imagination," or that's something else happening externally outside of yourself. And so as children, we're very impressionable, and so those words will stick with us. And so I feel like that energy or that thought process will stay with us until we have something um, life-changing happen around us, whether it be a loss or something physical around us too, that really has to allow us to go within and understand our own duality. But I would say fundamentally, it's going to be fear and doubt. Those
Mhm.
physical energies are going to be absolutely what impede you from connecting to your true source of light.
Mhm. So you're basically talking about the rational mind kind of being the barrier until we experience some type of trauma or crisis, which finally cuts through it. And then this opens up. Um, and so what is hopefully like a more gentle way of accessing the space without having to go through the trauma? Like what?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's such a great question, Gary. I think for everyone it's going to be unique and individual to them, but
Yeah.
I would say it's about listening in for the more uplifting voice within, not the
Mhm.
critical voice. And I can tell you as well with being a medium too, our rational mind is going to always want to sort of take away credit from what's divinely being given to us. So what happens is that we will get either a nudge from spirit, we will have a divine thought come to us, and within a matter of a millisecond, we have to decide in that moment to dedicate ourselves to that download. Otherwise, the rational mind comes in and wants to basically destroy all of that data,
Yep.
So it's really about being able to discern it before that process happens.
Right. The irrational mind is also a great appropriator, I find. It's really good at taking lessons from spirit and making it its own and, trying to take credit for it and getting in the way that way as well. So cool. So we've kind of collaborated on this two-track album to help folks access this space. We've called it Journey to Light. And the first album is called Surrendering to the Light. I was listening to it before we came on. It really turned out well, which I'm not surprised because your audio session went great. So in this first album, or in this first track, we are um, finding the space of self-acceptance through surrender. So how are those things connected for people?
Great question as well. I always find that when we're able to, in any situation, just accept what is, not to think ahead too far, not to let the energy of the past pull us into a different type of dialogue, but to really just be in the moment. That's when we're able to let things surface up that have been dormant for a long time too. That's where we can access the most healing potential, but it always comes from being present and then allowing ourselves to literally let go of that energy. And the only way to do that is through true surrender. And going back to when I was a child and going through crazy things in my life, I know for sure that when I was in that place of light, that for me was my form of surrender. And I was doing it without even calling it that. It was innate for me, the same way that it's innate for every single person on this planet right now. And so
Hmm.
sometimes having a guide, maybe like myself in this scenario, helping someone access their own connection to that surrender into that present moment is all that someone needs to be able to access it within themselves.
Hmm. Lovely.
Yeah.
And so, in this exercise, you're inviting people to basically shine a light on the thoughts and the feelings that are often fear-based that might bubble up for them once they're able to kind of look at it from this higher perspective, getting out of their ordinary working mind, their rational mind. In working with people, over all these years, are there any common ones that you see popping up for people over and over again?
You mean as far as what needs to be like surrendered or like
Yeah.
accepted?
Fears, limiting beliefs.
I would say primarily the one thing that I see is this imposter syndrome that has a way of creeping up in the rational mind. And I feel
Mhm.
like it's also this rational way's purpose is to keep us safe, and
Yeah.
so when we're able to bypass that thought process and truly understand that we are way more powerful than we realize,
Hmm.
that's the first step in it. But with when it comes to surrendering and acceptance too, this can be used in any aspect of someone's life, whether it be their own
Yeah.
spiritual awakening, whether it be they're going through a complete life shift, maybe a divorce or a career change, and they're having all of this impending like doom go on in their minds. This is
Hmm.
a great tool to be able to utilize your own spiritual fabric to connect with your divinity and also to
Yeah.
surrender all of that junk out to the light and let it do its job. And
Yeah.
and so once we're able to really understand that concept, I believe it makes life much more exciting, enjoyable, and magical to be able to recognize when those sort of synchronistic events pop up back in our physical experience as a result of giving it to that light of surrender.
Hmm. Very much so. Yeah, so this is maybe a bit of a digression, but so my perspective, as a parent who has three kids, kind of aged 6 to 16, when I was doing this work for myself, kind of in my 20s and 30s, I had these ideas that, I was going to parent in a way so that the work that I was doing as an adult would be minimized, or, maybe it wouldn't be necessary at all for my kids. And man, it does not turn out that way. Like, so, starting from the 6 year old, like, he's got his personality, obviously, but his fears are pretty much confined to just fear of being safe. But
Yeah.
by 16, you got fear of not being good enough, of, negative comparisons with others, of just, being overwhelmed by there being too much stuff in life and like, I'm not going to make it. And, at that age, like early teens, mid teens, like we just don't have the capacity to sit with it, in a mature, authentic way, even if your parents are kind of pointing at it. And it just kind of compounds and gets more structured as we get older. We carry it into adulthood.
Mhm.
And it kind of just gets more fixed, unless something happens to us. Like we either see the importance of sitting with it and looking at it, bringing a light to it, or like we talked about earlier, the trauma, the crisis kind of forces it. And so, I'm basically just pointing it out because people that have these fears or these beliefs, these structures, they shouldn't feel bad about it because it's inevitable. Like we're all going to have it.
Absolutely. And I think too, just with societal structures, we are taught to avoid certain things too in our lives growing up, and a lot of what we're taught to avoid is basically sitting in that energy, and so we have to relearn how to do it.
Hmm.
Typically, once we're out on our own and through trial and error, and this is where someone's belief system comes in to be paramount as this major part of their journey. But I really do believe that if we're able to give our belief to this source of energy, that it just makes things better fundamentally around us, you know?
Totally. Hmm.
Yeah.
So track one, surrendering to the light, finding self-acceptance. I mean, I guess that's kind of like self-forgiveness, right? Do you see a distinction there, or is it some?
I definitely believe that the two are interchangeable in that
Uh-huh.
sense, you know,
Uh-huh.
because you have to, in order to grow, we have to be able to forgive. And usually part of that forgiveness is of ourselves too, because it's basically what we are willing to put up with on our journey as well, right? And so when we're able to forgive ourselves for making certain choices, we also lean into more self-compassion, self-love. It's all intertwined into this process.
Hmm. Cool, cool. So track two, finding forgiveness. So this is mostly about forgiving others, and that is generally how we think about forgiveness, but it can also be about, forgiving ourselves as well here. So in working with clients, students, what do you typically see as the most common obstacles to forgiving others?
Really good question. I would say it really depends. There are so many stories across the board of what I've been able to experience with other people, but I would say a lot of times actually it's in forgiving God as well in some sense, you know, like why would you take this person from me or why would this event happen in my life, you know? And then once we realize who we're forgiving, we realize that we're all one in that process. And so we're forgiving ourselves for having a limiting belief system in the first place. But also too, I would say as well, it could be anything from um, jealous aspects as well. It could have a connection to somebody abandoning you, like maybe in a relationship too. It really just depends. I think it's going to be very unique to the situation and to the person.
Hmm. Really good. And I think I've also heard you point out that forgiveness doesn't equal exoneration, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. We're doing it for ourselves. We're not doing it for anything else because we realize at the end of the day that we are ourselves. We go to sleep as ourselves. We awake as ourselves, and everything else around us is a reflection of our journey that we have basically preset from the other side before we came into this physical experience. So, in essence, what we're doing is we're taking away all of the layers of human conditioning that keep us separate from our divinity. And a lot of times it does require forgiving others and to realize our own connection.
Hmm. Really good. And in terms of the exercise itself, I love the script. I love how you started with this, visual, this guided imagery on the beach and the liquid light, different colors, really gets you into this kind of altered realm, this different environment that feels very, loving, holding, supportive. Um, and so you're inviting folks to, again, connect with source, and find this moment of stillness. And you talk about cutting these energetic cords that might be, connected to your heart. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Absolutely. And I feel that in the meditation specifically, it's done in a very subtle manner by basically connecting with energy, connecting with the light source. But w when we realize that, you know, a part of our physical experience is also being energetically connected to other souls, to other environments around us, and sometimes, actually, a lot of those times, we are being influenced by our connection to different people and not realizing it. So you could be having a phone call with your insurance agent, as an example, and after the phone call, something's not sitting right with you, you know, you're feeling agitated, you're feeling down, you're feeling doubtful, and you're like, where is this coming from? A lot of times, it's not actually coming from you, it's coming from another outside source of influence. And so, again, going back to taking stock of your own energy, what you're allowing in, what you're allowing out, and how those different chords of energy will affect you on any given day, then you're able to make those cognitive decisions about, nope, I want to get my power back right now. The only way to get my power back is to sever these cords that I don't even know where they're going to, but all I know is that they're depleting me.
Hmm.
And that does go back to just having more boundaries energetically as well. But the boundaries for me, in essence, are about recognizing when someone's sucking away your power in those
Right.
points, you know?
And so, like, that piece is important because a lot
Yeah.
of folks that are listening to this probably can't see that necessarily, but they can feel it, right?
100%, yes. And that's the thing too, is that through each person's own exploration, they might realize that they may feel this stronger. You know, certain people are going to actually see it as well.
Hmm.
So I might actually sense it or even hear things going on in the background too. So it's almost like the catalyst within connecting with the light, sort of like exposes the truths around you as to who you really are vibrating on a soul level. And once you know who you are, then you can make informed decisions on your journey when something comes to you intuitively, or you have a feeling in your solar plexus, or you're hearing something. It's about actually recognizing that you're being guided, whether you recognize it or realize it or not. It's always
Mm.
given to you,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
it's really about paying attention to your feelings more.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And just kind of taking a step back, what role would you say um, does letting go of toxic relationships in your life really play in kind of creating the life that you want, the life that you desire? I mean, it probably sounds obvious as I say it, but folks might not really be internalizing or being made aware of these relationships that they do have in their life and kind of the extent to which they're holding them back.
Well, and this is true across the board as well, especially for the rising number of healers in the on the world in on the earth right now as well, and energy workers, light workers, is that a lot of times we have a way of putting everyone else in front of ourselves, you know, but we're not always aware of it or cognizant of it. And so sometimes we need someone else from the outside to look in and go, oh, this is not healthy, or you know, you are being kept from your true success in this life, you know. And so these lessons can manifest in many ways. A lot of times I see that it manifests through people entering relationships with people that have possible substance abuse issues at times as well, because they are numbing their own sense of self, and they're also numbing their spiritual senses as well. But we can see it across the board with many different types of situations. But a lot of times it's when you recognize that perhaps maybe you feel like deep down you're settling, you know,
Mm,
or you feel deep down that there's more there for you. There's a bigger life out there for you. But what's keeping you contained? What's keeping you feeling small? And once you're able to recognize that perhaps there are certain people on that journey that are there for a season, not a lifetime. And then once we're able to let go and to move forward, then we also see two other souls will enter our orbit to help teach us these very valuable lessons.
mm,
And so I think for anyone who's listening right now as well, it's always important just to get very honest with yourself first, you know, not to put stuff on the back burner, not to evade your own sense of intuition, but just to first recognize, first, am I happy in this situation? Do I feel fulfilled? Do I feel empowered? And if any of those questions are no, it's perhaps to go a little bit deeper within your own awareness to see how you can change that result.
and so this is maybe a good segue into talking about the inner child, which you talk a lot about being important in our search for soul or in connecting with spirit.
Absolutely, because again, everything originates on a soul level back to when we first come into this world. You know, it's that pin light of energy that creates who we are right now. And when we think about that energy being very impressionable, a lot of times we abandon our inner child and we don't even realize it until we're, you know, an adult and we're in this crisis mode. Then we have to go back within and go, okay, no, I'm going to literally coddle my inner child, give them that love and reassurance that they never received, you know, for whatever reason. And then when we utilize that connection and we strengthen it, we in turn realize that we're actually strengthening our connection with our higher self. And we
Mm.
realize that our higher self really is a version of our inner child.
Mm. And so, is it about going back and recalling memories, instances where we felt abandoned or um, left alone, unloved, and kind of bringing that in? Or,
I feel like it's about allowing sometimes things that push buttons or triggers, to let those things come up without trying to run away from them or to
uh,
push them down. And then once they come up organically, really sitting with that energy and seeing what can I do differently now, or how can I have more self-acceptance in this moment. But
uh,
those triggers are there for a reason. And even if we try to um, you know, run away from the moving target, so to speak, they will show up in these very unique moments in life when we are attracting to us certain people or situations that bring it back up to the surface, you know.
uh,
So it doesn't, and even, even when you do heal and even when you do have this connection as well, because you're in a physical human form, you're still going to have moments intermittently when you have to reactivate that belief system within yourself. It's
mm,
kind of like this pendulum swinging from the world, from the physical world to this divine knowing, and trying to find a balance in between. And it's not the easiest thing to do, which is why something like utilizing surrender and forgiveness helps us find that anchor again.
uh-huh. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I guess one aspect that we haven't covered, but I know that you talk a lot about is gratitude. You talk about the gratitude frequency. How do folks plug into that, and what does it do for them?
So I'm a firm believer in just, how also I operate as a channel or a medium as well is all about vibration. And I am able to recognize, oh, I'm so low today. I need to pull myself up, whether that be through chanting,
Yeah.
meditating, gratitude. But for me, though, gratitude has always been the one thing in my life that changes my frequency pretty instantaneously.
Yeah.
And it sounds so cliche, but it really is just this innate knowing that when you even say the word thank you, you're changing frequencies in that moment. So I want
Right.
to give people a visualization, something to plug into. And for me, that visualization is always gold energy and gold light. For me, that's the color of gratitude. It's also the color of abundance as well, of opulence too. And so once we're able to really pull that energy around us and embed it into our subconscious through repetition, then we start to really activate that muscle, and once we activate it, we start recognizing, okay, I'm more grateful today. Actually, I'm more in the flow today too, and I feel better about everything as well. And things are working out better for me just organically. And so it begins to become this new way of thinking that it just helps things vibrate better and look brighter on a
Yeah.
fundamental level, you know?
Love that because I know that when we're operating on a low vibrational level, which is usually fear-based,
Right.
accessing the higher vibrational states like joy or unconditional love, like it seems way too big of a leap. Like it's unattainable. But we
Mhm.
can usually find something to be grateful for. And like that is a much more positive vibrational state than being locked into fear. And it's
Mhm.
accessible to us. We can find it. So it's a great interim step to just feel a little bit better, just shift a little bit, and then you can build on it.
And one thing I learned too, in addition to gratitude, is the vibration of music as well. It has a very innate way of lifting our energy too. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
something like meditation too, like Hemi-Sync, for example, as well, is so important because what it does is it allows you to let go of the heavy earthbound energies that are keeping you locked into a certain rabbit hole in life, So to be able to partner with Hemi-Sync right now and to bring my philosophies and my approach into this incredible music, in the background that is doing two things at once. It's really just allowing you to get back into your true essence.
Mm-hmm.
Super powerful. And I was able to to listen to it myself, and I had this like the goosebumps as well. There was emotion that was evoked. So I'm just really excited for people to be able to experience what this can actually do for them.
Yeah, thanks for that, Bill.
Yeah.
I think it's a great set of tools we've created for hopefully a mostly new audience, and I think you'll find a new audience too with the Hemi-Sync folks. So I think it's going to be a great collaboration. Um, yeah, I love that. I guess as we kind of wrap this up, so people that think of you as the go-to for, people that have lost a loved one. Do you have any perspective or words of wisdom for people that might be listening that have recently lost a loved one or are locked in grief or um, things of that nature?
Absolutely. This is how I view grief and also view the pain that we have on a heart level.
Mm,
This is what Spirit has shown me over the years too. It's this accumulation of so much love that we hold for a certain individual that it literally breaks us, you know.
yeah.
And so when we're able to view it in a different form this way, and yes, it is literally heartbreaking, and I understand. I've had my own version of this too in my life. But when we look at it from the perspective of love and how that love cannot be contained, I believe that it helps shift our perspective about life and death as
Mm,
well. It also helps us understand too that our time in this physical experience is very fleeting as well. We're here to learn really big lessons. And then we're here to go back and to rejoice with our soul groups again about what we've learned in this very brief moment in Earth School. As I like to put it too. But also too, I want to encourage people to allow themselves to grieve, to give them the safe space to grieve as well, because once we're able to release this heaviness from within, then we're able to recognize how spirit is in the background guiding us, but also how they're leaving us really beautiful signs and symbols. We can't always recognize it though, especially when the wound is fresh as well. It's not going to happen instantaneously. It's a process. But once we kind of lean into that, into this new way of being and recognize that they haven't left us, they're still around us. They're just in a different form. They're the form that is our original form of light and energy. And once we accept that and start to utilize a new language with spirit, it really does enhance our journey here. It really does in so many ways.
that was super beautiful. Thanks for that.
Yeah.
Well, we are recording this on April 29th, 2025. Where can people find you, Bill? Are there any upcoming events they should know about?
They can find me. My website is just my name, billphillips.com, one L and two P's, or you'll have someone else entirely different. But I just finished an audience reading a couple days ago here in Oregon. I have an audience event in Great Barrington, Massachusetts in a few weeks. I'll also be teaching at Kripalu Mother's Day weekend as well.
Oh, lovely. Great.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Well, thanks so much for doing this album with us, Bill. I'm sure we'll be talking again. Hope the folks out there enjoy it and love and light. Thank you
Thank
very
you
much.
so much for having me, and I am honored. Thank you.